Okay, so today we're going to break down a law that honestly shapes the world around us in some very real ways. We're talking about Nepal's Public Procurement Act. Now, that might sound a little dry, but it's all about how the government spends public money, our money, and understanding it is absolutely key to understanding how our country gets built.
When you see a new road being paved or a school going up in your neighborhood, do you ever stop and wonder, hey, who decided which company gets to build that? And maybe more importantly, how do we know our tax money is being spent wisely? Well, that's exactly what this is all about. This act is basically the official rulebook for how the government buys everything on our behalf. All right, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to break it down into 5 key parts. First, we'll cover why this law even matters. Then we'll look at who it actually affects. After that, we'll dive into how the whole process works, what the rules are for the folks bidding on projects, and finally, we'll pull it all together and look at the big picture. Okay, let's dive right in. First up, why does this act even exist? I mean, what problem is it really trying to solve? Well, the answer is right there in the law's introduction, its preamble. The whole mission is to make government spending open, fair, and trustworthy. The goal is to get the best possible value for public money and to push for good governance. Think of it as a framework designed to shut down corruption and waste by creating a level, competitive playing field for everyone involved. So, if that's the goal, who exactly has to play by these rules? Let's get into it. The Act uses this term, public body. And let me tell you, the definition is super broad. Essentially, if an organization is fully or mostly owned, controlled, or funded by the government, well, it falls under this law. And we're not just talking about the big central government ministries either. Yeah, the net is cast incredibly wide here. We're talking about pretty much everything, from constitutional bodies and courts, all the way to government departments, state-owned companies, public universities, and even your local municipality. The bottom line is, if public funds are being spent, this act is in play. So we know who it affects, but how does all this work in practice? A good way to think about it is like this. Imagine you're doing a big renovation on your house, and you need to get quotes from a few different builders. Now, just scale that up to a national level and add a bunch of very, very strict rules. The process follows a pretty clear path. First up is planning. The public body has to do its homework, figure out exactly what it needs, and come up with a realistic cost estimate. Then it kicks off the bidding process with a public call for proposals. Next comes the evaluation, where all the bids that came in are carefully checked against the criteria they already set. And finally, the contract is awarded. And this is key. It's not always about the lowest price, but about who is the most qualified and suitable bidder for that specific job. But it's not a one-size-fits-all process. The Act is actually pretty smart about this. It outlines different methods for different situations. The default is national open bidding, which is great for encouraging local competition. For those huge, complex projects, they might use international bidding. For smaller jobs, they can use a simpler, sealed quotation process. And in a true emergency, like after a natural disaster, there's a special provision for direct procurement, so they can act fast. Okay, so let's switch gears. What about the companies that are actually trying to win these contracts? What do they need to know? Everything, and I mean everything, revolves around the bid. This is the formal proposal a company submits, but it's so much more than just a price tag. It's a whole package detailing their plan, their qualifications, their costs, all of it, in response to that public invitation. And to keep things fair and really encourage competition, the law sets a minimum time for bidders to prepare their proposals. For national-level bidding, that minimum is 30 days. This is so important because it prevents any last-minute rushes and gives companies a real, fair chance to put together a thoughtful, solid proposal. And remember, being qualified is not just about having the lowest price. Bidders have to prove they can actually do the job. That means showing they have the technical skills, the right equipment, a strong track record of past performance, and stable finances. It's all about making sure the company that gets the contract can actually deliver on their promises. So when all the bids come in, they're basically sorted into 2 piles, responsive and non-responsive. A responsive bid is a good one. It followed all the rules. It's complete, it was submitted on time, it meets all the technical specs, and it has the required financial guarantee. A non-responsive bid, on the other hand, fails on one of those points, and it gets immediately disqualified. This isn't just bureaucratic red tape. It's what ensures every single bid is judged by the exact same standards. All right, so let's zoom out now and bring all these pieces together. What's the big picture here? What's the ultimate takeaway?
At its absolute core, the Public Procurement Act is a tool for good governance. It's an attempt to build a system where public money is spent transparently, where the best companies win contracts through fair competition, and where public bodies are held accountable for their decisions. Really, it's about building trust between the government and the people it serves. Of course, having a rulebook is one thing. How the game is actually played is another. This act sets the standard, but it leaves us with a really critical question. Has it truly made public spending transparent and accountable in practice? That's a question worth thinking about. Thanks for tuning in.